Did you know? Every time you check a notification, scroll social media, or glance at your phone, you don't just lose 10-15 seconds. You destroy your brain's ability to go deep. Research shows it can take up to 20 minutes to regain full focus after even a tiny distraction. Imagine your biggest dreams, your most brilliant ideas slipping away, not because you're not smart enough, but because you've trained your mind to stay shallow. The real question is, will you keep living distracted, or will you unlock the life-changing power of deep work?
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Book Podcast Zone. I'm Emma.
And I'm John.
Especially for this topic, deep work. It's incredibly relevant, maybe one of the biggest challenges, but also opportunities we face today.
Couldn't agree more. So today, we're really diving deep into Cal Newport's groundbreaking ideas from his book, Deep Work. And we're not just talking about, another productivity tip. Newport argues this is fundamental. A whole new way of thinking about creating value, making an impact, and honestly finding some real fulfillment in this, incredibly noisy world we live in.
That's it, exactly. It's about a paradigm shift.
Right. So our mission here is to really pull out the most powerful insights from his work. We want to show you why deep work isn't just valuable, it's absolutely essential. And maybe more importantly, how you can start bringing its, life-changing power into your own life. Day to day. Get ready, because this might make you rethink, pretty much everything you thought you knew about focus and getting things done. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so Cal Newport kicks things off with this claim that really hit home for me. He says that focused, completely uninterrupted work isn't just helpful, it's the absolute key, the non-negotiable key to really thriving in our modern economy, the knowledge economy. And he frames deep work not just as like an option or a good idea, but as a straight-up necessity if you want to succeed, especially now in 2025. It feels a bit like finding out you have this hidden superpower, one you've had all along, but maybe haven't really used properly.
That's a really critical starting point, and to really get why Newport says this, we have to look at the history he lays out, because the whole idea of what's valuable work, it's fundamentally changed, massively.
How so?
Well, think way back. The industrial age. Productivity was pretty straightforward then, right? You measured it by machines, by assembly lines, by how many widgets came off the line. Value was in doing the same thing over and over, manual tasks, physical stuff.
Okay, yeah, clear output.
Exactly. But Newport draws this really sharp contrast with now, our era. It's been totally reshaped by technology, especially since the tech boom starting back in the 90s. Now, in this knowledge economy, the people who win aren't the ones doing the easily repeatable stuff.
Right. Because machines can do that now.
Precisely. The winners are the people who can learn complex things fast and who can consistently produce work that's high quality, innovative, and, not obvious. Stuff that requires real thinking.
And that, I think, is where it gets real for so many of us listening.
Yeah.
Like a century ago, a factory worker, their value was obvious, tied right to what they physically made. But now, think about it. We've got advanced AI tools like ChatGPT. They can write basic stuff, generate code, analyze data, things that used to take humans a lot of time. So the question becomes, what makes us indispensable? What makes your contribution stand out from what a machine can spit out?
That is the question. And it's both the challenge and the massive opportunity. If machines are getting better and better at the routine, the shallow tasks, where do humans fit in? Where's our unique value? And Newport's answer, which he lays out really compellingly, is deep work. It's the skill that lets you master complicated things quickly, so you can adapt to new tech, new methods, new market demands, which change constantly. And maybe even more importantly, it's what fuels real innovation, high-quality results. Deep work is where the new solutions come from, the breakthroughs, the creative leaps that actually, move things forward. It's how you build real expertise.
And he backs this up, right? He gives examples.
Oh, absolutely. He doesn't just leave it as theory. He points to people like Bill Gates. Gates famously had his Think Weeks.
Right. I find that incredible. Bill Gates, running Microsoft, one of the biggest companies in the world, literally locking himself away for weeks, not just a couple of hours, but whole weeks, just to think, to wrestle with the big foundational problems without any interruptions.
It seems almost radical now, doesn't it, in our world of constant pings and notifications?
Totally radical. It shows that even at the absolute top, where you think maybe you delegate thinking, no, deep, solitary focus was a deliberate strategy. It wasn't a luxury. It was how they made those huge leaps.
That's a really powerful point. Even someone like Gates, with all the resources in the world, recognized that genuine breakthroughs, the kind that change industries, required stepping away, disengaging deliberately from the day-to-day noise. Those think weeks were essentially highly structured, large-scale, deep work sessions, a strategic investment in the quality of his own thought. He knew surface-level thinking wouldn't cut it.
And it's not just for billionaires building tech empires, right?
Mm.
This applies now to regular folks in 2025.
Absolutely. Newport stresses the relevance across the board. You see it everywhere. Think about remote teams today. Maybe a startup down in Austin, Texas, building some new software, a SaaS product. The developers on that team, the ones who can actually block out the constant Slack messages, the emails, the endless virtual meetings, the ones who carve out hours to just focus on the complex code, on debugging those tricky systems, on designing solid architecture. They are the ones delivering the breakthrough features. They're solving the hard problems that make the product stand out in a really crowded market.
So it's a competitive advantage, not just for the individual, but for the whole team, the whole company.
Exactly. It's not just about individual performance, though deep work boosts that massively. It's about organizational agility, competitive edge, especially now with so many teams distributed, working digitally. Companies that actually get this, that build a culture where deep work is protected, even encouraged, they're the ones likely to out-innovate the competition who are just, stuck in that whirlwind of shallow activity. It's a real edge.
Newport actually calls this ability a superpower. I like that framing. So for someone listening right now, maybe trying to climb the ladder at work or launch that side hustle they dream about, what's the core message about this superpower? How does it change how you should approach your goals?
Well, beyond just getting more done, which is obvious, the deeper insight, I think, is that deep work turns you into what you might call a skill architect. It's not just about producing stuff. It's about the speed at which you can acquire, refine, and combine complex skills. In a world where AI is handling more and more routine tasks, that ability to learn and adapt rapidly, that's what makes you truly indispensable. It shifts your focus from just ticking off tasks to achieving something genuinely new, creating value that machines, well, at least for now, can't replicate. You're building a unique human advantage.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting because it's not just theory. It's a call to action, isn't it? Newport is basically saying to you, the listener, take a hard look at your daily grind. Are you optimizing for small, incremental stuff, or are you setting yourself up for the big wins? He's asking you to evaluate your habits, your routines, how your workday is structured. Are they actually serving your biggest goals? Or are you just defaulting to busy?
Busy, that's a really crucial point. It suggests that many of us operate under this flawed idea of productivity. We often value being seen to be busy, answering emails quickly, attending all the meetings, having a packed calendar, over actually producing work of real depth and quality. Newport forces us to question that. He wants us to recalibrate what work even means. Is it frantic activity, or is it creating genuine, lasting value? It's a fundamental shift in perspective.
Wow. Okay, that's a powerful start on why deep work is so valuable. We're just getting started here. If you're finding this insightful, make sure to like, subscribe, and share for more updates as we continue our deep dive. All right, let's move on to the next piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so if deep work is this amazing superpower, this absolutely essential skill for thriving today, then the big question is, why is it so incredibly rare? This is where Newport kind of drops a bombshell, isn't it? He reveals that this incredibly valuable thing is actually disappearing right under our noses. It's a strange paradox. Something so good for us, yet so hard to find. It really is a paradox, and it forces us to ask, what's pushing against it? What forces are actively eroding our ability to work deeply? Newport digs into this meticulously. He outlines the societal trends, the organizational habits, the technological pressures that all conspire against deep work.
He starts by painting this picture of like mid-20th century offices. You almost get this black and white movie vibe, individual offices, quiet corridors, maybe the gentle clacking of typewriters, an atmosphere of concentration. So it sounds almost, monastic compared to many offices today. That quiet focus was just expected.
It was. That era really underscores a time when the value of undisturbed thinking wasn't just understood, it was built into the environment, the physical layout, the workplace culture. It all implicitly supported deep, focused engagement. Serious work needed quiet time. That was the default assumption.
Then, boom, everything changed. The internet arrived, right? And then not long after, maybe early 2000s, social media just exploded. And suddenly we went from those quiet individual spaces to, awesome, open plan offices. Chaos almost. Plus this constant hum of digital noise, emails, messages, notifications, always on. It felt like we were getting more connected, sure, but maybe we lost something crucial in the process, our focus.
That's a key turning point Newport highlights. It's fascinating and kind of ironic, isn't it? These technologies were designed ostensibly to boost communication, to make collaboration easier. But the unintended consequence was this massive increase in distraction, a constant fragmentation of our attention. And that shift has made deep work exponentially harder. Our mental landscape is just perpetually interrupted now, always being pulled towards the surface.
And Newport is pretty sharp in his critique of how companies operate, too. He talks about this culture of busyness, where being seen to be busy, checking Slack constantly, firing off email replies instantly, bouncing from meeting to meeting, is often valued more than actual, tangible output. We've all felt that pressure, haven't we? That frantic activity feels productive, gives you a little dopamine hit, maybe. But Newport argues it's incredibly destructive to real focus. It's the illusion of productivity, he says.
And it's more than just a personal bad habit. He argues it's often an organizational pathology. It's dangerous. This surface-level activity, the packed calendars, the lightning-fast email replies, it often masks a serious lack of substantive progress on the things that truly matter. Think about some of those high-pressure environments like tech companies in Silicon Valley or maybe big consulting firms in New York City. The culture is often always on. Back-to-back video calls, instant messaging, expected at all hours. It's seen as dedication. But where's the space for the deep thinking? The kind needed for real innovation, for solving the truly complex problems, gets squeezed out. So ironically, all that visible activity can actually lead to lower quality work and burnout.
He calls society's addiction to these shallow tasks a hidden villain. I like that term. It's like this slow creep, this gradual erosion of our ability to concentrate. The tools that were meant to connect us, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, now X, Threads, all of it, they end up scattering our attention into tiny pieces. We think we're staying plugged in, but really we're just getting scattered, losing that cognitive thread.
And this really brings up critical questions about the design of these digital tools. Are they designed for our well-being or for something else? Newport argues many are deliberately engineered to exploit our psychology. They use variable rewards, novelty, social pressure, tactics designed to keep us hooked, keep us scrolling. So useful tools get twisted into engines of constant distraction, making deep work a constant uphill struggle against our own engineered impulses.
And this is so incredibly relevant right now in 2025. Think about hybrid work. Many of us are juggling Zoom calls at home, then maybe commuting for in-person meetings, then back to emails and Slack. That constant context switching, it's exhausting. That Zoom fatigue is real. It just makes finding a clear, solid block of time for deep, focused thinking feel almost impossible sometimes.
You've hit on a major modern challenge. Even with the flexibility hybrid work seems to offer, the underlying expectation in many places is still constant availability, instant responsiveness. So the potential benefit of quiet, focused work at home often gets undermined by this barrage of digital demands. The lines blur between deep and shallow work, between work life and home life. It becomes this continuous gray area of low-level distraction.
I mean, it's not all doom and gloom, right? There are people who push back, who resist. Newport highlights these rare gems. People like authors, researchers, coders, who deliberately create isolation to produce amazing work. You can picture it, right? A novelist maybe rents a cabin way out in Vermont, disconnects the internet for 3 months and just writes, finishes the book. Or maybe a software architect in Seattle finds a quiet corner, puts on noise-canceling headphones and spends solid days designing something truly innovative. They succeed because they deliberately disconnect from the noise.
Exactly. These individuals become really important examples. They demonstrate that it is possible, that taking a deliberate, sometimes countercultural stance against the tide of distraction can yield extraordinary results. Work that really stands out. Their ability to consciously choose focus over fragmentation shows that deep work in today's world is almost a rebellious act.
Wow.
And it's that rebellion, that commitment to depth that often distinguishes the truly exceptional performers and creators.
A rebel act. I like that. Okay, so deep work is valuable, but it's rare due to all these forces working against it. Another great chapter unpacked. Remember, folks, if you're enjoying this, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it around. We appreciate the support. Now, let's get into the next crucial layer. Why deep work isn't just productive, but meaningful. Okay, this next chapter, for me anyway, feels like the real heart of the book. It's where it gets emotional, almost spiritual, you could say. Newport shifts from just talking about getting ahead or being productive to talking about finding genuine satisfaction. A richer, more, meaningful life through deep work. He argues it's not just about what you produce, but how the act of producing it deeply affects your sense of well-being. This feels so important today, with burnout being such a huge issue.
Absolutely. This is where the argument transcends mere efficiency. If we connect it to, fundamental human psychology, Newport argues that deep work taps into core human needs: the need for mastery, for competence, the desire for autonomy, for feeling in control, and the search for purpose, for doing something that matters. He positions deep work as a powerful antidote to that modern feeling of being busy but empty, constantly reacting but never truly creating or achieving something significant. It offers a path back to intrinsic motivation.
He digs into some fascinating history and psychology to back this up, like the concept of flow states.
Yes.
This comes from psychologists back in the early 20th century, and famously Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, right? That feeling when you're so totally absorbed in something, time just disappears. You're fully immersed, challenged, but capable. That's flow. And Newport says deep work is basically the gateway to achieving flow consistently.
That's a perfect connection. The research on flow provides the scientific backbone for why deep work feels so inherently good. It's not just a nice feeling, it's a state of optimal experience, where your skills are fully engaged in overcoming a challenge. In that state, your sense of self kind of fades, concentration intensifies, and performance often peaks. And the aftermath of flow is this profound sense of accomplishment, of energized satisfaction. Deep work creates the conditions for that.
And he makes this beautiful connection to craftsmanship. Thinking back centuries, he compares the focus of deep work to, say, artisans during the Renaissance. Imagine a master woodcarver in Florence spending hours, days, weeks meticulously working on a piece. It wasn't just a job to pay the bills, it was a devotion, a pursuit of excellence, of mastery, a deep connection to the materials in the process. There's a profound satisfaction in that kind of focused creation, isn't there? They certainly weren't multitasking.
Not a chance. And that comparison highlights this timeless human drive. There's a deep, enduring satisfaction that comes from exercising skill, from pushing your abilities, from creating something of value and quality through focused effort. It's that sense of mastery, of pride in one's craft, that shallow, fragmented work simply cannot provide. Our modern economy, often obsessed with speed and quantity, sometimes forgets the deep human need for quality and craftsmanship. Deep work brings that back.
So let's talk brain chemistry for a second. Newport mentions this rush better than any quick dopamine hit from scrolling. What's happening neurologically? Why does deep work feel better in a more sustained way than those little hits from notifications?
It's a great question, and it gets to the core difference between fleeting pleasure and lasting satisfaction. Those shallow distractions, a notification, a new like, a quick email reply, they often trigger a short, sharp burst of dopamine. It's the brain's reward system saying, ooh, novelty, or task complete. But it's fleeting. Addictive even. Deep work, on the other hand, engages different neurochemical systems. When you make progress on a challenging task, when you achieve a state of flow, your brain releases neurotransmitters like serotonin, endorphins, maybe even anandamide. These are associated with feelings of calm, well-being, sustained contentment, and the intrinsic reward that comes from effortful achievement and mastery. So it's less like a quick sugar rush and more like the satisfaction of a nourishing meal. It builds a more stable sense of well-being and motivation. It rewires you for genuine satisfaction, not just chasing the next hit.
And we see the opposite of this everywhere in 2025, don't we? The burnout from just relentless multitasking. You mentioned content creators earlier. Trying to be everywhere, online, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, blog, email. Constantly switching platforms, contexts, tones. It's a recipe for exhaustion, not joy. That fragmentation leads to burnout, not fulfillment.
It's a stark contrast, and sadly, a very common story. The very tools that promise connection and reach can become instruments of overwhelm. When you're constantly pulled in a dozen different directions, trying to maintain a presence everywhere, you never get to experience that deep satisfaction of focused creation. Instead, it's this draining sense of always being behind, always needing to do more, spread thinner and thinner. Newport argues this shallow existence is inherently unsatisfying.
So deep work emerges here not just as a productivity strategy, but almost as a lifeline. A way back to finding joy and purpose in what you do. It offers a path to turn work from something you dread or just endure into something that genuinely engages you, something you feel passionate about again. That's fair?
That's absolutely fair. By making a conscious choice to engage with your work differently, with focus, with intention, with depth, you can fundamentally shift your entire experience. You move away from feeling like a cog in a machine, constantly reacting, towards feeling like a craftsperson again. Engaged, growing, contributing something meaningful. That psychological shift is huge for long-term happiness and sustained performance. It rebuilds that sense of pride and purpose.
And Newport shares stories, right?
Hmm.
Examples of people who found this renewed meaning. I remember one anecdote, maybe not exactly from the book, but illustrating the point. Imagine a software engineer, maybe working at a big tech firm in Silicon Valley, feeling totally burned out. Meetings, emails, Slack, just drained.
Hmm.
Then they start carving out, say, an hour each morning for deep work on a personal project. Maybe learning a complex new programming language, contributing to an open source cause they believe in. Suddenly, that hour becomes the best part of their day. They rediscover the joy of coding, the satisfaction of building something complex. It gives them a sense of purpose that transcends the daily corporate grind.
That perfectly illustrates the universal applicability of these ideas. It doesn't matter if you're a coder, a writer, a researcher, a manager, an artist. The principles are the same. Deliberate, focused effort on challenging tasks leads to skill development, valuable output, and a profound sense of meaning and well-being. It's about how you approach the work, the intention you bring, much more than the specific job title. It's about reclaiming craftsmanship in a distracted world.
Powerful stuff. Finding meaning through focus. Okay, that wraps up the why part of deep work, why it's valuable, rare, and meaningful. As always, if this is resonating, give us a like, subscribe for more, and share this deep dive with someone who needs it. Coming up next, we get into the practical how, Newport's rules for deep work. Okay, so we've really established the why deep work matters so much, its value, its scarcity, its connection to a meaningful life. Now, Newport shifts gears. He gets super practical. This is the how-to section. And rule number one is just blunt, bold, work deeply. It sounds less like a suggestion and more like a command, doesn't it? A call to arms against distraction. It's about actively building the habits and rituals that make deep work happen.
It is direct, isn't it? And the crucial thing here, as you said, is that it's not just about trying to focus harder. Willpower alone isn't enough, it runs out. This rule is about deliberate design, structuring your time, your environment, your routines.
Yeah.
So that deep work isn't just something you hope happens, but something that is almost, engineered to happen. Proactive, not reactive.
He looks back in history for inspiration again. You mentioned Carl Jung earlier. Jung literally built a stone tower, his Bolian Tower in Switzerland, back in the 1920s. Not just a nice house, but a dedicated retreat, a sanctuary built specifically to escape distractions and dive deep into his revolutionary ideas about psychology. That's some serious commitment to creating the right environment for deep thought. It's like the ultimate focus hack, built in stone.
It's an incredible example, isn't it? And it highlights this timeless truth that really profound thinking often requires a sanctuary. Whether it's a physical tower or just a designated quiet time and space, the principle is the same. You need to create conditions free from the constant pull of the outside world. Jung understood that breakthroughs don't usually happen amidst chaos. They need dedicated, uninterrupted solitude. He engineered his environment to force his mind deeper.
So Newport recognizes we can't all build stone towers. He offers different strategies, almost like different battle plans, to fit different lives and work styles. It's not one size fits all. He talks about the monastic approach first. What's it look like in practice, and who is it really for?
The monastic approach is, well, the most extreme. It's about maximizing deep work by minimizing or completely eliminating shallow obligations. Think total isolation, like Jung's tower, maybe for specific, intense projects or periods. A writer going off-grid for a month to finish a novel. A scientist dedicating a whole semester purely to research with zero teaching or admin. It requires basically shutting out the outside world as much as possible for extended durations. It's probably best suited for people whose work is very clearly defined by major, discrete, deep work projects and who have a lot of control over their schedule. Maybe academics, authors, some types of artists or entrepreneurs in a specific phase. The barriers are obviously huge, right? Managing responsibilities, expectations, potential loneliness. It takes serious planning and discipline. Newport even suggests shorter monastic sprints, like a 3-day weekend locked away, can be super effective for tackling a specific challenge.
Right, so intense, maybe not sustainable long-term for most, but powerful for specific bursts. Okay, then there's a bimodal approach. This sounds a bit more balanced, splitting time. How does that work without the two modes just blending together?
The bimodal approach tries to get the best of both worlds. You dedicate clearly defined stretches of time only to deep work, and then you have other clearly defined stretches for everything else, the shallow stuff, meetings, email, collaboration. So you might dedicate, say, 4 hours every morning, or maybe 3 full days a week, solely to deep pursuits completely unavailable otherwise. Then, the rest of the time, you're open for shallow work. A classic example Newport uses is a university professor who might dedicate the summer entirely to deep research, monastic block, but during the semester they adopt a bimodal approach, teaching days and research days. The key to stopping the modes bleeding together is strict scheduling and very clear boundaries. You need to communicate your deep work times as unavailable. Treat them like important appointments you can't miss. Maybe use out-of-office replies during those times. It requires discipline to protect those deep blocks fiercely.
Oh, strict boundaries are key there. That makes sense. What about the rhythmic approach? That sounds like building a habit.
Exactly. The rhythmic approach is all about making deep work a regular, consistent habit, like going to the gym. You schedule a specific block of time for deep work every single day, and you stick to it religiously. Maybe it's 90 minutes first thing in the morning, or 2 hours after lunch. The power here is in the routine. It removes the decision-making friction. You don't have to decide each day, should I do deep work now? It's just what you do at that time. Think of a software developer in San Francisco who blocks 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. every single day for focused coding. No meetings, no email during that time. It becomes automatic. The challenge, again, is protecting that time block, making it non-negotiable. But the consistency can be incredibly powerful for building deep work capacity over time.
Rhythmic feels very achievable for many people, integrating it to a regular schedule. Okay, lastly, the journalistic approach. This sounds like it's for people whose schedules are just crazy.
Pretty much. The journalistic approach is for those whose days are highly unpredictable. Think journalists on breaking news, maybe ER doctors, some types of managers constantly putting out fires. With this approach, you don't have regular pre-scheduled blocks. Instead, you train yourself to switch into deep work mode whenever an unexpected pocket of free time opens up. Maybe you have 45 minutes between meetings. Boom, dive deep into analyzing that report. A client cancels last minute. Use that hour for strategic thinking. This requires incredible mental agility, the ability to shift gears instantly and focus intensely on demand. It also requires a high degree of intention, recognizing those opportunities and seizing them for deep work, rather than just defaulting to checking email or social media. It's being an opportunist for focus in the midst of chaos.
Wow. 4 distinct approaches. It really shows you need to find what fits your life. And beyond these big strategies, he gives practical tips, like creating rituals to start your deep work sessions. Little things, right? Like maybe making a specific cup of tea, clearing your desk completely, putting on certain music. It's like a trigger for your brain.
Those rituals are incredibly important. They're not just superstition. They serve a real psychological purpose. They act as conditioning cues, signaling to your brain, okay, it's time to transition, time to focus now. This reduces the mental effort needed to get started, helps overcome procrastination, and makes it easier to slip into that focused state. Think about a writer who always lights a specific candle before they start writing, or a coder who always puts on the same noise-canceling headphones and playlist. These small actions create a powerful pathway into deep work.
He also really emphasizes measuring your deep work hours, like actually keeping track. Why is that so important?
Because what gets measured gets managed. It's easy to feel like you're working hard, but tracking your actual hours spent in deep focus gives you objective data. It makes the goal concrete. Are you hitting 2 hours a day? 10 hours a week? Seeing that number go up provides positive reinforcement. Seeing it stagnant or low highlights that you need to adjust your strategies or boundaries. It brings accountability and moves you from a vague intention, I should focus more, to a specific, trackable goal. I will achieve 15 hours of deep work this week. That clarity is motivating.
So this whole first rule, work deeply, especially now in 2025, with distractions everywhere, smartwatches buzzing, notifications popping up constantly. Newport frames it as a real battle, doesn't he? A fight to reclaim your focus. But he promises the people who win this fight, they don't just get more done. They produce work that genuinely stands out. They emerge stronger because they've mastered their attention.
It absolutely is a battle, and many people are losing it without even realizing they're in a fight. The key insight is viewing your attention as your most valuable finite resource in this knowledge economy. This rule is about becoming a conscious defender of that resource, building fortifications, training yourself, deploying it strategically. Mastering this rule doesn't just lead to better output, it leads to a greater sense of control and capability in a world designed to steal your focus. It's about becoming the master of your own mind.
Okay, rule #1, work deeply. Set up your strategies, build your rituals, measure your progress. Got it. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're getting value from this. We'll move on to rule #2, and this one might surprise you. All right, rule number 2. And this one sounds completely backwards at first glance, doesn't it? Embrace boredom.
I mean, seriously, we spend practically our entire lives trying to avoid being bored. Every tiny gap in our day, waiting in line, sitting at a red light, even during a TV commercial, what do? We grab our phones, fill the void instantly. Newport comes along and says, nope, you're welcome, boredom. Train yourself to resist that constant need for stimulation if you want to do deep work. It feels unnatural.
It does feel unnatural now, doesn't it? And that's precisely Newport's point. It raises this really critical question. Have we collectively become so addicted to constant external input, so intolerant of even a moment's quiet, that we've actually damaged our ability to sustain attention, to reflect, to just be? He argues very persuasively that yes, we have. This constant flight from boredom has effectively weakened our mental muscles for concentration. We've lost our tolerance for internal quiet.
He uses history again to make this point, thinking about life before smartphones, before the internet was in our pockets, 24/7. If you were stuck waiting somewhere, say at the doctor's office in Sacramento, maybe riding the bus, you just waited. Your mind might wander. You might people watch. You might actually feel bored. And that unstructured time, that very boredom, he suggests, was actually exercise for the brain. It built a capacity for focus that our always-on culture, especially since smartphones took over around the 2010s, has just steadily eroded.
Exactly. The constant availability of digital distraction has short-circuited our brain's natural response to idleness. Instead of turning inward, generating our own thoughts, or wrestling with a problem internally when things are quiet, we immediately reach for an external fix. And over time, this weakens the neural pathways responsible for sustained, internally directed focus, the pathways you absolutely need for deep work. We've essentially outsourced the task of filling unstructured time to our devices, and in doing so, we've let our innate ability to concentrate atrophy, like a muscle we stopped using.
So how do we rebuild that muscle? Newport gives some really concrete strategies. It's not about throwing your phone away entirely. One key idea is scheduling your internet use, putting it in its place almost. Instead of letting it interrupt you constantly, you decide, I will only check email, social media news at these specific times, maybe 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. for 15 minutes each.
Yeah.
That's it. It sounds simple, but for most people, that's a radical shift from the constant reactive checking we fall into.
It's radical, but neurologically powerful. Think about attention residue. Every time you switch tasks, especially quickly checking something distracting, a piece of your attention stays stuck on that previous thing. This residue makes it harder to focus fully on the next task. By scheduling your internet use into distinct blocks, you create clean breaks. You allow your brain to fully disengage from the shallow web and fully engage with your deep work task. It transforms the internet from a constant interrupter into a tool you use intentionally, on your terms. You regain control over those cognitive transitions.
Okay, scheduled internet blocks. That makes sense. He also talks about productive meditation. That sounds intriguing. Using commute time, maybe.
Yes. Productive meditation is about leveraging those moments when you're physically occupied but mentally free, like walking, jogging, showering, driving, riding the subway in Chicago. Instead of zoning out, or again, reaching for the phone, you consciously direct your focus onto a single, well-defined professional problem. You might mentally rehearse a presentation, brainstorm solutions to a challenge, outline an article. You hold that one problem in your mind and work through it, resisting distractions. It's turning otherwise dead time into focused cognitive training. You're strengthening your concentration muscle while potentially making real progress on important thinking tasks. It's like doing mental push-ups during your commute.
Mental push-ups. I like that. But actually doing this, resisting the phone when you hit a tough spot and you're thinking, or just sitting quietly, it's hard. You feel that pull, that almost physical urge to distract yourself. Newport calls this the tension. He says leaning into that discomfort is the workout.
That's the core of it. We are conditioned deep down to avoid mental discomfort. That feeling of being stuck or bored or mentally strained, our instinct is to escape it immediately. But Newport argues that true cognitive strengthening, rebuilding that focus muscle, happens precisely when you don't escape. When you sit with the discomfort, push through the resistance, and keep your attention focused. It's like lifting weights. The growth happens when you push against the resistance, not when you give up as soon as it feels hard. Embracing that productive discomfort is key.
And there's a real payoff for this in 2025, right? It's not just about willpower. There are even tools that can help now. Apps like Focus at Will or Brain.fm, they use neuroscience, specific kinds of audio, to help create a soundscape that actually encourages concentration and blocks out distractions.
Yes, it's a fascinating area where technology can actually be used to counteract the negative effects of, well, other technology. These tools aren't magic bullets. You still need the underlying intention and discipline. But they can be powerful aids. They can help create the optimal conditions for focus, much like a good pair of noise-canceling headphones can help in a noisy office. They leverage our understanding of the brain to support, rather than undermine, concentration.
So the ultimate goal here, the big payoff for embracing boredom and resisting distraction, is developing a mind that isn't constantly fragmented, a mind that's sharp, focused, and capable of sustained thought. This turns those moments that used to feel boring or empty into potential gold mines for ideas, for insights, for breakthroughs. Your brain finally has the space to connect the dots.
Precisely. By cultivating a tolerance for boredom, by intentionally creating mental space free from external stimuli, you foster a richer internal landscape. It's in those quiet moments that creativity often sparks, that subconscious processing happens, that unexpected connections are made. You're essentially cultivating fertile ground for deeper thinking and originality. Simply by allowing your mind to operate without the constant noise of the shallow world, it's about reclaiming your inner world.
Reclaiming your inner world. Powerful. Okay, rule #2. Embrace boredom. Train your brain. Resist distraction. Schedule your tech use. Loving this discussion. Let us know with a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it out. Up next, probably the most controversial rule for many people. All right, here we go. Rule #3. And this is the one that often gets the biggest reaction, maybe even some pushback. Newport puts it out there bluntly. Quit social media.
Bruh.
Wow. I mean, for so many people, these platforms are woven into the fabric of daily life, connecting with friends, family, professional networks, news, suggesting we just ditch it all? That feels huge, almost unthinkable for some.
It definitely lands like a bombshell, doesn't it? But it's crucial to understand why he says this. He's not coming from a place of being anti-technology or wanting everyone to become a hermit. Not at all. Instead, he's asking for a really hard-nosed, strategic look at these specific tools. He wants us to question whether platforms that seem harmless or even useful are actually causing significant, perhaps hidden damage to our ability to focus, our mental well-being, and ultimately our capacity for deep work. It's a cost-benefit analysis, but with really high stakes.
And he uses some strong language, some stark comparisons to make his point. He talks about the history, the rise of social media in the early 2000s, and he draws this really provocative parallel to the tobacco industry, arguing that these platforms weren't just designed to connect people innocently, they were engineered from the ground up with addictive algorithms, using psychological tricks to hook us, keep us scrolling, keep us coming back, much like cigarettes were engineered for craving. That comparison really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
It's designed to make you stop and think. It's deliberately provocative because he wants us to confront the reality of platform design. It forces us to ask, are these tools optimized for my goals? Or are they optimized for capturing my attention for the platform's benefit? He argues convincingly that many are built around maximizing engagement, often by exploiting our innate psychological drives for novelty, for social validation, for fear of missing out. This creates this relentless cycle of distraction, pulling us towards shallow interactions and away from sustained focus, often without us even consciously realizing it.
So how does he suggest we approach this? He introduces this idea of the craftsman approach to tools, like a woodworker choosing their chisels very carefully.
Exactly. The craftsman approach is about being incredibly intentional and selective about the tools you allow into your life and workflow. The core principle is, does this tool significantly and directly support my most important professional goals or my deepest personal values? If the answer isn't a clear, resounding yes, and if the benefits don't demonstrably outweigh the significant the cost to your time, your attention, your mental energy, then the craftsman's default is to discard the tool. It's about a rigorous, unsentimental evaluation, not just passively accepting every new app or platform that comes along. You only keep the tools that truly help you produce your best work or live your best life.
Okay, so it's about being ruthlessly selective. But does that mean everyone has to quit everything cold turkey? He offers some nuance there, right? Like selective use.
He does offer nuance. It's not necessarily all or nothing for everyone. The selective use strategy acknowledges that some platforms might offer genuine, high-value benefits for certain people in certain contexts. So the idea is, identify the specific value. Maybe you decide LinkedIn is genuinely crucial for your career networking and industry knowledge. Okay, keep LinkedIn. But then you might realize that Instagram or Facebook or TikTok mainly just serves as a time sink, fuels comparison, and leaves you feeling drained. In that case, the craftsman approach says, cut those out completely. It's about being surgical, identifying the core benefit and using the tool only for that or eliminating it if the net cost is too high. Mindful integration or strategic elimination.
And for people who aren't sure or who feel nervous about quitting altogether, he strongly recommends trying a 30-day detox, just as an experiment.
Yes, the 30-day detox is a brilliant practical step. It's a low-risk way to gather personal data.
Just step away completely from a specific platform or maybe all optional social media for a full month.
Yeah.
Just observe. How much extra time do you suddenly have? How does your ability to focus change? How does your mood shift? Do you feel less anxious, more present?
For many people, the results are eye-opening. They experience a level of mental clarity and reclaimed time they didn't realize was possible. It can be incredibly liberating and provide the evidence needed to make a permanent change.
Especially now in 2025. It feels like there's always a new platform popping up, right? Like Threads recently. Adding even more noise, more places to check, more demands on our attention. Newport's advice here feels incredibly timely. It's about actively curating your digital life, taking back control from this escalating flood of digital noise.
It really is about taking control in what feels like an attention arms race. Every new platform is vying for a slice of your limited cognitive bandwidth. Newport provides a framework, a philosophy for saying no, for deliberately choosing to disengage from these battles for your attention so you can focus your energy on what you've decided truly matters. It's an act of reclaiming cognitive sovereignty.
And the drama here, the real impact, comes when you actually do it, when you realize how many hours you get back, how much mental space clears up. It leads directly to clearer thinking, the ability to tackle bigger, more complex projects, to produce work that has real depth and impact. Imagine what you could accomplish with, say, an extra 5 or 10 focused hours each week. The possibilities are huge.
Absolutely. By consciously removing these major sources of shallow distraction, you're not just saving time, you're freeing up vital cognitive resources. That mental energy can then be reinvested into deep, meaningful work, the kind that leads to breakthroughs, fosters creativity, builds valuable skills, and ultimately delivers a far greater impact and personal satisfaction. It's a direct investment in your highest potential.
Rule #3. Quit social media, or at least be incredibly intentional about it. A tough one, but potentially game-changing. Stick with us. If you're finding this deep dive helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. We've got one more crucial rule to cover. Okay, we've reached the final rule in Cal Newport's framework, rule #4. Drain the shallows. And this one feels like it ties everything together. It's about actively identifying and minimizing all that other stuff. The shallow work. Those tasks that are often logistical, maybe administrative, don't require intense cognitive effort, and are frequently done while we're distracted anyway. Newport argues we need to systematically reduce this shallow work to protect and maximize our time for the deep stuff. It's like clearing out the weeds so the valuable plants can grow.
That's a great analogy. If we think about deep work as the high-value activity, then shallow work is everything else that fills our day, but doesn't really move the needle on our most important goals. This rule is about strategic defense. It's about recognizing that shallow work, while sometimes necessary, will expand to fill all available time if you let it. So you need to actively push back, minimize it, contain it, essentially create a protective barrier around your deep work time so it doesn't get constantly eroded by trivialities.
And again, he points out this isn't a totally brand new idea. He references productivity thinkers from the past, like the legendary Peter Drucker. Drucker was talking about this way back in the 1950s and 60s. He was adamant about tracking your time meticulously to see where it actually goes.
Yeah.
His whole thing was identify the time-wasting activities, the fluff, and then be ruthless about cutting them out or minimizing them. The basic principle holds true, even if the types of shallow work have changed.
It's fascinating how enduring those core principles are, isn't it? The specific distractions change. Maybe back then it was unnecessary meetings or poorly managed paperwork. Now it's often endless email chains or constant Slack notifications. But the fundamental problem is the same. Shallow, low-value activities tend to proliferate and crowd out the deep, high-value work. Newport brings a modern urgency and a set of practical tactics to Drucker's timeless wisdom.
So what are some of those tactics? How do we actually drain the shallows? He suggests something pretty intense. Schedule every minute of your day.
Yeah, that one often raises eyebrows. It sounds incredibly rigid, maybe even stressful.
But the idea behind it isn't to become a robot. It's about being intentional.
Instead of having large blocks of unstructured time where shallow tasks can creep in, you proactively decide in advance what you're going to do with every block of time. Even shallow tasks get scheduled. 1.00, 1.30 p.m. Respond to emails. 3.0, 3.15 p.m. Process expense report. By assigning everything a time, you force yourself to confront how much time things actually take, and you prevent your day from being passively consumed by reactive, shallow demands. It's about taking active control of your schedule.
Okay, so it's about proactive planning, not just reacting. He also suggests quantifying the depth of your tasks. How does that work?
This is a really practical filter. He suggests asking yourself for any given task. How long would it take to train a smart, recent college graduate with no specialized experience in my field to do this task?
If the answer is not very long, or they could learn it quickly, then it's likely a shallow task.
It's a way to objectively assess the true cognitive value. Does this task require your unique expertise, your deep thinking, or is it more about process, logistics, easily transferable skills? Identifying tasks as shallow using this metric helps you prioritize delegating them, automating them, or simply spending much less time on them, freeing up more capacity for genuine deep work.
That's a great test. And a big one for draining the shallows, which we touched on earlier. Strict email routines.
Absolutely huge. Email is often the primary driver of shallow work and constant distraction for knowledge workers. The default behavior is to have it open all day, check it constantly, respond immediately, which guarantees a fragmented workday. Newport advocates batching email. Only check and process email at specific scheduled times. Maybe twice a day, maybe 3 times. During those blocks, you process it efficiently. Outside those blocks, you ignore it completely. This requires discipline, maybe setting expectations with colleagues. But it transforms email from a constant interruption into a manageable, scheduled task like any other shallow work item. Think of that busy lawyer in Atlanta. They aren't checking email during depositions. They handle it in focused bursts.
Batching email. Such a simple idea, but so hard for many to implement. Okay, and then he talks about the end of the day, the shutdown ritual. What's that about?
The shutdown ritual is the crucial bookend to the workday. It's a deliberate routine to signal to your brain that the workday is well and truly over. It might involve reviewing your task list, planning the next day's schedule, tidying your workspace, and maybe saying a specific phrase like "shutdown complete." The psychological purpose is to achieve cognitive closure, to convince your brain that it's safe to stop thinking about work, to prevent those lingering tasks or worries from bleeding into your personal time. This allows for proper mental recovery and rest, which is essential for being able to perform deep work effectively the next day. It prevents that constant low-level work anxiety.
That sounds incredibly healthy,
Yeah.
especially now with remote and hybrid work blurring the lines. And again, in 2025, technology can actually help with draining the shallows too, right? Like time tracking tools.
Yes, technology can be an ally here, in used correctly. Modern time-tracking software, even some AI-powered tools, can give you a much clearer picture of where your time is actually going. They can help identify hidden shallow work traps like spending too much time in unproductive meetings or getting bogged down in certain types of administrative tasks. This data can empower individuals and even teams, maybe remote teams looking at their collective time, used to identify and slash pointless meetings or streamline inefficient processes, freeing up substantial time for deep work. Used intentionally, tech helps optimize.
So the big transformation promised by this final rule, drain the shallows, is moving from feeling constantly busy, overwhelmed, buried under a mountain of emails and small tasks,
Yeah.
to feeling empowered, in control, knowing that you're protecting your most valuable time and energy for the work that really matters, the work that makes a difference. It's about stopping the trivial from drowning out the essential.
Precisely. By systematically identifying, minimizing, and containing shallow work, you create the necessary conditions, the time, the energy, the mental space to consistently engage in deep work. It's the final piece of the puzzle, ensuring that your commitment to working deeply isn't constantly sabotaged by the demands of the shallow. It's about creating a sustainable system for high-impact, fulfilling work. Hashtag outro.
Wow. What an incredibly rich exploration of Cal Newport's deep work. We've really covered a lot of ground. We started by understanding why deep work is so incredibly valuable in today's economy, then confronted the sobering reality of how rare it's become. We felt the profound connection between deep work and a truly meaningful, fulfilling life. And then we armed ourselves with those 4 practical, powerful rules. Work deeply, embrace boredom, quit social media, or be super selective, and finally, drain the shallows. From Bill Gates' famous Think Weeks to Young building a literal tower for focus to the everyday struggle against distraction, it's crystal clear. Deep work isn't just some fleeting trend. It feels like a fundamental skill, essential for success, for innovation, and honestly for well-being in 2025 and definitely beyond.
It really feels foundational, doesn't it? And the core message, I think, is ultimately one of empowerment. Newport shows us that our ability to focus deeply isn't just fixed talent. It's a skill that can be cultivated through deliberate practice, through conscious choices, through designing our environment and routines. It really challenges us to step back and fundamentally rethink how we approach our work, how we manage our attention, how we structure our lives in this incredibly distracting age. It puts the power back in our hands.
So as we wrap up, the question for you listening right now is,
Yeah.
what does this all mean for your life?
Mhm.
Your goals, your daily habits? Just think about this. If one single hour of truly focused, deep work can achieve more than an entire day spent fragmented and distracted, what could a week, a month, a whole year of prioritizing deep work unlock for you? For those big dreams, those ambitious projects, those brilliant ideas you haven't had the space to pursue. The potential impact is just massive.
It really prompts some serious self-reflection. What's one small, concrete step you could take, maybe even starting today? Could you schedule just 30 minutes of uninterrupted time tomorrow morning? Could you identify one recurring shallow task you could minimize or delegate this week? Could you try scheduling your email checks instead of reacting instantly? The power to make these changes, to transform your productivity and find more fulfillment, often lies in starting with these seemingly small but incredibly deliberate choices. Consistency is key.
We really encourage you to take an honest look. Look at your digital habits, your workspace, your daily schedule. Ask yourself, are these things truly aligned with my most important goals? Or are they, perhaps unintentionally, holding me back from doing the deep, meaningful work I'm capable of? The choice, as Newport emphasizes, is ultimately yours. And the potential rewards in terms of impact, satisfaction, and mastering your craft are immense. Thank you so much for joining us here on Book Podcast Zone for this deep dive into Cal Newport's deep work.
It's been a great discussion. Thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep digging deep.